I really was excited, and I wanted to interview you because I think you are the perfect person for this specific topic. I know you, and I know a little bit about your background, but I'm going to let you explain it to the audience. But I don't think there's a better person to talk about the importance of passion, because to me, it is the number one ingredient for achieving success. And I'm not just talking about passion in our industry or the business, your specific businesses, but also the people that you employ and you work with, the impact it has on their lives and the enrichment, but also what you do with, in the communities that you work with. So welcome, Todd Blue.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. It's amazing. I love the podcast, so thanks for having me, and love the Louisville connections. So
yes.
It's amazing.
So a lot of you don't know, Todd actually grew up in Louisville, and that's where we originally met. Lives down in Houston now, but has dealerships scattered all over. So I want to start off with talking about how you broke into the auto industry, because I think it really aligns with the passion topic we're talking about. But we're going to talk a little bit about, and I want the audience to understand your background, your experience level, how you got started, where you're coming from. Then we'll kind of switch gears, and we'll talk about what would you do if you had to start all over again, all right, in building this brand, which, by the way, I think the brand you've built in the short amount of time that you've done it has been incredible. So and none of that is possible without the passion that you have for this. So I'd like to start off with, talk to us a little bit about your background, your experience.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. Passion is something we talk about with our team probably daily. And I would say that if you met me when I was 5 years old and you talk to kids that are 5 or 10 years old, say, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? Kids will say, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman. I want to be playing the NBA. Whatever a kid might theoretically or actually say, literally, probably other than playing in the NBA or something, I always said, more of a fantasy, I want to be in the car business. But that was fantasy. But I was always passionate about cars, but a lot of people are passionate about cars, but I literally love this industry, and I wanted to be around it to, I think at 14, I was a subscriber to Automotive News, which is just random. It wasn't like Car and Driver or Road and Track. It was Automotive News, so the industry, but I wasn't in the industry. And again, grew up in Louisville, went to George Washington University, studied international business, got out of school, went and was a metals trader in Chicago for 3 years, loved it. Loved the interaction, loved the...
Now, that probably did help you in the auto industry.
It did, for sure. Trading and buying and selling. And then moved back to work with my family in Louisville and literally assumed that was the rest of my life. I didn't think it was a punishment or a sentence of any kind. I just said, I don't know, that's what I'm destined to do. And we ended up building that business with our family, and then ended up buying that business with my brother from my father, and then we ended up selling that business. And at that time, my wife wanted to stay in Louisville, and so we got into real estate and was fortunate to be partners with guys like Junior Bridgman in the hamburger business, just a small part. He's incredibly larger. He let me participate in a teeny tiny part of his business, and we were in mortgages and a bunch of other businesses. But the truth is, and I tell this every time, I really didn't have a passion for any of it, the truth. I loved, working on downtown Louisville and stuff, but it was hard to get momentum. And so made a little bit of money, but not a lot, and I started collecting cars.
Talk a little bit about that, because that's the first, if someone was to ask me when your first actual introduction into the auto business, and to me, that's what kind of started all this for you. But I didn't know all the things about the Automotive News prior. But I did know you did the car collecting. So go into a little bit more detail on that first.
Sure. So, by the way, there was only one other teeny tiny car business. In the summers when I was in high school and college, I worked for what was Liberty National Bank. You remember that. Became Bank One and became Chase at a later date. And I worked in the floor plan department of that. But that was just random. And I would literally, it was before computers and before these terminals that the people walk around with, and I would have a clipboard, and I would go around and count cars for the bank with car dealers. So that was my only exposure. But that was just a job. But I was like, oh, wow, I love this industry. So that was the only tangential connection to the industry. So then again, fast forward literally 20 years, made a little bit of money, started collecting cars, and another Louisvillian, Jim Patterson Sr., kind of took me under his wing and allowed me to kind of be in that world of collectors. And of course, I couldn't collect or participate at the level where he collected, but I got around it and I was like, oh, I can't really do this. And so I made it a business. Now, the truth is it was probably to support the habit of collecting. It really probably wasn't a profitable business, but it's where I started. And I think if you connect it to where we are today in the luxury car business, it allowed us to understand kind of the wealthy luxury customer and what they wanted. And that was a great exposure. So then, 20 seconds on this. No, go ahead. Sorry. We'll cut that because I want you to.
Because, and I alluded to this, you've built an incredible brand. And I think you mentioned something that you have a niche. Yeah. You're not the typical dealer in the sense that you've got Honda, you've got Ford, you've got Chevy, your niche is the ultra luxury brands. Right. And so does that come from your passion from when you were collecting?
It for sure came from passion. The first tagline for our business was the collector's dealer. And the whole concept was to put ourselves in the position of the customer. We wanted to build a business to understand what wealthy people wanted when they came to car dealerships. And we built our business and our culture around that passion. That whole thing was where we started. It eventually evolved to a tagline called Activate Your Ownership, which was more of a graduated way, but the passion that you discuss is absolutely where we built it. It was built customer facing this way, saying, what are they going to want? And then how do we build everything that they want?
So I continuously talk about don't chase competition, chase what your customer wants.
For sure.
And by finding this niche, it allowed you to do what you just said. It allowed you to really hone in on what this type of customer wants. So regardless of what rooftop you're working from or where your customer, you understand that this type of customer wants to be treated this way. They want it in this amount of time and on down the line.
For sure. Our whole thing was a culture of yes. Other people have it. The Four Seasons Hotel has it, Ritz-Carlton, but we say, I'd like to do this. Figure every way out of the things that are coming out of your mouth. This is what we work with our people on, that you got to say yes. Some way, somehow, say yes, because they want to hear yes. Wealthy people want to hear yes, and they want access to things or the perception of things that other people can't have. So that's what we try to do.
I'm so glad you brought up Four Seasons and Ritz, because I learned more paying attention to businesses outside of my own business.
For sure.
And say, all right, I like the way they just treated me, or I like the way they do this. How can I apply that to my own business applications? Exactly. Right? So when you bring up, I don't believe, especially today with the internet, I don't believe that the average customer, and this goes for, and probably more so with the wealthy customer, but I think any customer, I don't think we're judged by the dealer down the street. I think we're judged by our best experience. So if someone's online at one of your dealership's websites, they're not comparing you to the other Rolls dealership. They're comparing you to, wow, when I buy
Hermes.
When I buy paper towels at Amazon, it sure is a lot easier than getting this. I can find what I want here. You're being compared to other industries. So when you bring up Ritz-Carlton and Four Seasons, they are known and recognized for having superior customer service. Yep. And so I think it's great that you model things like that, because I agree. I think everyone puts a certain company as the benchmark, right? Amex, I think, is another example. When I'm traveling and if I have issues, I'm like, I never have this issue when I deal with my Amex person.
It's true. It's so true. We are asked, you do the same thing with Honda and your other manufacturers. We have presidents of these auto brands, and they call us these, what are your favorite things in luxury in the United States? And they think, and they should be, oh, is it Hermes? Is it Neiman Marcus? Is it Four Seasons? And it is. But, lately there's a new luxury, and I think it goes back to access and how a brand makes you feel. And there's a new thing, not a new thing, there's something that we work on, and it's United, of all things, United Airlines Global Services. And what it is it's a category. It's not platinum. It's not this many miles. United evaluates its clients by whether it's how much you spend every year, in addition to how much fly, how nice you are to the person at the counter, all these things. And they don't tell you the criterion. And at the end of the year, every year, we're all waiting around in December. I think people that live obviously in Houston, in New York because of Newark, and San Francisco, and the other hubs for United, we all wait around. Oh my gosh, are we going to get our status? Are we going to get our status? Because it's not, did I fly this many miles? It's a combination of things. And why I consider that a luxury, because once you get that status, you feel like A, you've earned it, and B, the way you're treated and the relationship you have with the brand is unlike anything else. And it's not money. It's not a discount. It's not anything that might be first of mind. It's how they make you feel. It's the access they give you. And it's how the extra little bits of service that are beyond things you don't want. So I think there are different forms of luxury in the world today. And luxury has to be reinvented at least every couple of years as to what it is.
That is a great example. So
it was great. It's a great thing. And like I'm sitting around right now, it's December 10th, and I'm saying, oh my gosh, am I going to make global services?
I think
I don't even know.
Well, and I think the most shocking thing about this is you're flying commercial, which
well, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons.
Which I know isn't always true.
That's right. That's right. But they make you feel special enough that it's great. So it's a good thing.
How many stores do you have?
So we just actually yesterday acquired our 19th store. We're honored. We have Porsche, Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, and McLaren in Houston. In Rancho Mirage and Palm Springs, we have Porsche, Audi, Jaguar, Land Rover, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Aston Martin, McLaren, and BMW. We're in Riverside, California with Jaguar and Land Rover. And we're in St. Louis, Missouri with Porsche, where we bought 2 Porsche stores and consolidated the market for that. And obviously, we're honored. One of our tenements of our company is we honor the heritage of the brands we represent. It's been a tenement from day one, and we're really fortunate to represent those brands, and our people are absolutely believing, and we ingrain it every day because these are great things that people don't have to have, and so to represent them is an honor.
I think a lot of people don't know this about you. Todd had no experience in running a store.
None.
You've never owned a store. You told your history with it. Yep. So one day you buy a store, and not that everybody has that ability to do it, but right. To me that's a big benefit because you didn't. And it's, by the way, it's completely unusual for that to happen in this industry because most people that are buying stores have either been running them. For sure. More than likely, they already own other ones, and there's a consolidation effort happening where they're buying multiple stores, similar to what you are now doing. Yeah. But to me, it's a big advantage for you because you were able to come into this industry. You had the passion, right? So you're sitting there. How can we do things better than maybe what you've experienced when you had to buy your own cars?
For sure, that's what we did.
And so, but it probably you had a very, and I'll let you explain it. I would assume you had a very open mind to possibilities and what the purpose of these stores could be, whether it's for your employees, for the community, what have you. Talk a little bit about the early days of you starting out.
For sure. Thank you for asking that. So I want to go back to that question about, so I was this collector. Then I had a relationship that I developed with a gentleman by the name of Mark Johnson, MD Johnson Inc. He's an automobile dealer brokerage business. And I actually ended up finding the store through, of all things, YPO. I was in Young President's Organization. Met a guy, came together, and I called Mark and used him as a consultant, not as a broker. So I had found the store myself, and I said, Mark, I need your help. So we went through the process. We had 5 interviews with Porsche. Everybody now says, oh, well, of course you're successful. You got Porsche. Well, this was 2009. Porsche and every other brand, as you remember, were on their back.
Yes.
It was tough. So we go through 5 interviews, make it to the final interview with Detlef.
5's a lot.
5 interviews. Detlef Van Platten, who's now worldwide head of sales and marketing, was head of CEO of North America. And he's in the meeting, and he's going like, he and I joke about this all the time. He's got his head down like this. He's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with you? You have no experience. What am I going to do? And he said, you know what? What the heck? I'm going to give you a chance, but don't let me down. And these are the 3 things. You need to sell all your other businesses. That was great advice.
Yeah.
You need to move to Houston, and you need to.
They want you in market.
Learn the car business, period. Be in the market. And we did all those things. And to answer your recent question, I was like, oh my gosh, they handed me the keys the day we closed, and they're like, you're a dealer. I had no idea. I didn't know what an RO was the day I closed. That's how little I knew.
If you were to ask anybody in this industry, you've been in it a long time now, so if you were to ask anybody in this industry, and probably even yourself, and you'd be the only one that would maybe not say this because of your own experience with it, but most people, if they'd say, will this guy make it or not?
I would say no
with
way.
That,
no.
Yeah.
No way.
I agree.
And as a credit to our people, so what I did, I took a Socratic method of learning, and I would sit and ask questions of my people. So I would sit with salesmen for weeks, salesmen, not managers, service, not just managers, technicians, people doing the warranty, whatever. And I would sit and say, please teach me the business. I didn't have time to go to NADA school or anything else. It was 2009, 2010, January we closed. I'm sitting there, I'm learning the business for my people. The first year when we bought the store, the Porsche store was doing 12 new units a month and 8 pre-owned units a month. We'll do 900 new in this store.
I was going to say, there's no way this facility is supporting that low of volume.
So, and that was
or that low of volume could support this.
Exactly,
store.
And that was because of our people and their willingness and belief to take on a whole new mission of what it feels like, smells like, and looks like to be in the car business. Like I said, we started off being our tagline was the collector's dealer. Then our tagline was activator ownership. And now we're best brands, best markets, best people. And they're all related. It is all passion and grind. And the truth is, I've had 2 back surgeries since I've been in this business, probably from flying commercial. No, I'm kidding. and the truth is, like you know better than anybody, passion is critical. But you have to be willing to work harder than everybody else. If you're not willing to work harder, it won't happen. And the only way to work harder is passion.
Yes.
That's it.
I agree.
You got to be willing to dig every day.
And you don't get to talk about your inexperience here. Or where it was. What roadblocks did you face early on, and then how did you overcome them? So you just said with your inexperience what you did, which I think is incredible.
Tough decisions. Like everything in life or business, you have to know what you don't know. So I knew nothing, and so I knew I needed great management and great leadership. And so right away, the very first thing I did, just from previous mistakes in other businesses, I got a great controller and accounting office because I knew I had to have accounting in place, ready to go, and couldn't have mistakes back there because I was not going to be good at that.
Right.
So we got the first human being that I hired was an automotive controller in Houston, Janet Monk. Then the next person I hired was Kelly Wolf as general manager. And I had heard about Kelly, and he's now president of our company. I heard about Kelly. Oh, no, you're not going to get Kelly. Can't get Kelly. And then that's all someone had to tell me was, you can't get him.
I love that.
And so, we developed a personal relationship first, a friendship. Then when he left a giant job at his company, I would say the first 3 months of my job with him was to give him therapy, that it was okay that he took this job and we're going to do it and hang in there with me. We're going to be okay. Because he's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? 12 cars a month. And it got better. And together we grew and learned, and he helped me and I helped him. And he had experience I didn't have, and I had life and other business experience, and we just grew together. So without him and without those first people, and then we had a great core team that was here. And so it's all about our people, and people say that a lot, but it truly is. And they believed and trusted our mission.
And that is, it goes right back to passion. When you bring up the story about having to counsel him, it takes me way back when I was a child, actually. My dad was selling cars and managing a store, a Chevy store up in Cincinnati for Jeff Weiler. Yeah. They were selling 400 or 500 cars a month. Yeah. I mean, they were just cranking. Yeah. And when he eventually took over Green Tree Toyota close to Louisville, they were selling less than 65. And the volume bothered him.
Yeah, it literally internalized.
Yeah, it was tough for him to work at that pace. Yeah. But you know what? It's that passion that you have to keep driving forward. I think that it almost wills results. I don't. So
and I think you got to have a little luck. I'm okay with that. Like we had, remember, entered in 2009, so 10. We got lucky with a great market. Now, you asked earlier, said, hey, did you ever think you could do this? Would this ever happen? It's a great question. I think that upmarket, it might not have determined our success, but it allowed maybe mistakes of the inexperience that we had to be forgiven because we had an upmarket. Rising tide lifts all yachts.
Yep.
And so, yeah, other people were in that market and they didn't grow as fast as we did, but we had the luxury of an upmarket to forgive some mistakes we made early on and grew in spite of ourselves because of that upmarket. And then obviously followed our mission, implement, execute, and hustle, and just honestly be willing to work harder than the next guy.
So let's go back at the beginning. What is the relationship with your vision then compared to your vision now?
Sure. So we always wanted to stay luxury, not because, look, some of the wealthiest guys you and I know in the car business have Toyota, Honda, Ford stores, and they have, incredible success. You said it, I didn't, I'll joke with you, bigger airplanes, you know what I'm saying? And so luxury doesn't automatically equal success, as we both know. Like, the wealthiest guys in the business have big Toyota stores. It is what it is. I just knew we knew luxury. I didn't know that market, and I knew that I couldn't be passionate or as successful in that, and I was willing to be, I'm putting this in quotes, smaller or do a different kind of market because I knew I couldn't do the other market.
Well, and that's a good point. And to me, that goes right back to passion, too, because you don't need to be a dealer to understand what a luxury dealer's customer wants. You were afforded, you were doing well prior, so you were still, prior to your auto experience, you're traveling, you're staying in nice places, you're sitting there saying, I like the way I'm being treated here, I like what's happening here.
And we put that into our car business.
Correct, and which probably made you, I'm putting words in your mouth, I don't want to do that, but for me, if it was me, I'd sit there and say, this is where I want to be. So if I want to be in auto and that's where my passion is, this is the type of dealer I want to be.
That's exactly right. That's what we did. And look, again, going back, it's okay. Luck is okay. We were fortunate. Houston had an economy that was taking off and vibrant and growing. We were around good brands. Porsche was just getting ready to explode. So we made some good decisions. I think it was partial luck, partial timing, partial, hopefully we made the right decision on the right brands. So we kind of caught those. And then when we went into California, it was interesting. When we bought California in 2013, our team members in that store still thought we were in a recession. And we were like, we're going. No, everything's good. It's good. Like, oh, no, times are terrible. No, they're not. They're great. Get confident, get excited, get passionate.
Yep.
And we had, obviously, the luck, the good fortune that Houston was vibrant and excited. So we brought that attitude to the Palm Springs market and said, hey, things are great. And then it caught steam, and then it went. And then either the California market got confident again or whatever. So going back to best brands, best markets, best people, it seemed to work for us.
Were there any tools or resources that you relied on or used early on to help you build this brand?
For sure. We had a wonderful marketing agency in South Carolina, Momentum Marketing. We had great consultants all along the way. We threw ourselves into, I didn't get the luxury. We sent our people to NADA school. I actually would have loved to have gone to NADA school. I didn't have time to do it, but we sent our people to NADA school, our GMs. We participated in 20 groups that learned from fabulous, iconic dealers, guys that'll go unnamed at least for now, but that were so good. And I'll be honest, people in this business will shockingly take you under their wing.
Yes,
they're happy to teach you. It's a neat business because maybe they don't find, if they're in, I'll use a fake city, if they're in Kansas City and you're in Palm Springs, it's not really competitive. So
that's right. Sharing
ideas is great. And it reminded me, I was once in the scrap metal business, and those were cities that you had people in different cities, and they were the guy in that city, and it was neat. And the car business is like that a lot.
And what's great is you come in with such a fresh approach, very open to a lot of ideas with your own ideas that were very probably outside of the box as the industry, but then you get to go and talk to these other business leaders within the industry and learn best practices and kind of marry.
For sure.
Marry it all.
And I think the only way we can help that is pay it forward. If guys that call me today and they're 60 and they've got a 32-year-old son in the business and they say, can they come spend some time with you and your company? Absolutely. It's amazing. It's fun. It makes you feel young again, and you see their bright-eyed ideas and passion. And you know from your business and J&L and the other things, like this young market is incredible in their ideas, and we need to listen to them. We need to learn from them. And we joke here about millennials and stuff, and that's totally fine, but there's a lot to learn.
My son's behind the camera. He jokes with me all the time about my age, and he has to tell me, no, Dad, that can happen, this can't, with the technology. So I just think it all can happen.
It's great. It's great. It's amazing.
Is there a particular story or example you'd like to share that really sums up all your early experiences with Indigo?
You know, I just think these brands and what they've gone through, and watching the decisions that they've made and the alignment. You know, we have had brands that will go and name that didn't work. Not everything worked. I think that...
So it didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't just this perfect success path?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I think that you know this, and many dealers know this. I think brands will be hot and brands will cool down a little bit. Yeah. And to be diversified by brand is good. For us, geographic diversification, which, by the way, if we would have had our choice, I would have only grown in Houston, right? Like, it would have just been like, life would have been easier. Yeah. Probably would have had at least one less back surgery, you know, from a lack of travel. But by the time we wanted to grow and buy more stores, things got too expensive in Houston, and we just looked for the opportunity. And we didn't seek out Palm Springs or Rancho Mirage. It presented itself, and we hopped on that opportunity. Same thing in St. Louis, same thing in the other markets. So
here you got your passion. Clearly you find and discover your purpose, and it opens up all these new possibilities. Yep. And so let's switch gears.
Yep.
Let's take it back to the beginning, and you got to start all over again. Yeah. All right. The reason I want to ask these type of questions is because for the business leader that's out there that's either stuck, maybe they're starting out, you know, whatever it might be, everyone's looking for the shortcut or a way to take. So how many years? You started in 2009. So here
January of 10. January of 10, we bought our first store.
So you're not, well, it's almost January, so 10 years.
Yep.
And so rather than taking maybe someone 10 years, maybe they can do it in 7. Maybe they can do it in 6 or 5, right? How do we shorten that learning curve? If you had to start all over again with Indigo, all right, what would you do differently?
Well, I know you're a great dad, and so this is not a thing that's easy to say, but the one thing I did sacrifice, I probably would have liked to spend more time with my kids. I was on the road a lot, and I tried to be in the moment. I didn't miss many, if any, games, but when you're on the road a lot, if you're gone 3.5 days out of 7 times 10 years during the time when your kids are 10 to 20, that's one thing you cannot get back. So if you said rewind the tape and you could have this many fewer dollars but this more time with your kids, I probably would have done that. But it is what it is, and thank God, you know, I'm grateful for my relationship with my kids. So that's the one personal thing I would have probably done. In business,
we'll edit that down so you can use that on there.
exactly. But I would say in business, ideally it would have been easier to be in one market for those reasons, but I didn't have that luxury. So if I could do it perfectly all again, I probably coulda, shoulda, woulda, you know, been more aggressive with the stores in my own market.
It's also opened up possibilities, though, for you. I think your brand becomes more national versus more localized.
For sure. And
there's a lot of people that would never know of you guys. If you'd stayed in Houston.
If we were just in Houston. Yeah. I agree. And we're grateful for that. We don't change anything. I just kind of said if I could do anything different. There's
what would you done more of?
I probably would have aligned more with fewer brands. I know that sounds crazy. So we have 10 brands, which is fantastic. But
it's a lot of conventions.
They all need their attention. They want their meetings. They want you at those meetings, and they deserve to have you at those meetings. And so, you know, we did and made all of them.
Yeah. A lot of trips to Vegas.
It's a lot. There's a lot of trips to Europe and everywhere. So probably a few less brands and a few less cities in a perfect world. But I'm not complaining, and you're right, it did diversify us geographically and also helped our brand. So,
looking back, is there anything that if you had done something different, either you wish could have happened faster, or now looking back, yeah, I could have done this faster? What would that have been?
I would say at the very end, when I say the end, in the last few years, really went our facility improvement plan. And I know that sounds crazy for a dealer. Yeah. Every dealer in the country will
not everybody says that.
Every dealer in the country will want to kill me when I say this, but what I specifically mean is, if you look out here, we have 30 bays for Porsche in North Houston, and we're full all the time, every day, thank God. And we moved from a facility that had 8. We know for sure that we had diminishing returns with the 8 service bay. We've only moved 2 years ago, and we kind of say to ourselves, how much more production and customer service could we have provided if we would have done it earlier? Now, we generally did it as fast as humanly possible. We were technically only in the building 4 or 5 years before we conceived this building, and then it took us a couple of years to build it. By the time you planned it and bought the land and did everything. So, but those are high-class problems. I don't think that's a terrible mistake. It's just like, I think we could have done better faster.
Well, this show is all about trying to strike back against basically a world trying to marginalize and commoditize you. Yeah. And it's funny because most dealers, and I'm getting off a little bit off track here, but you bring up something and it made me think of it. Most dealers, their enjoyment is on the front side of the building, selling cars. That's the exciting part of it, right? Yeah. There's better margins. Now they're trending down a little bit, but there's better margins in the back. Right. But we put all our time, effort, and money in the front.
Yeah. We designed this building. It's funny. This office looks over the service department and the showroom by design to show to our people, to our customers, and to myself, that they're at a minimum equally important. And that shop out there is, other than the fact that it's raining in Houston today, is as clean as that showroom. And that's how we have our entire company. That's what we believe in. We want, if you're a customer and you walk back there and you can see your cars downstairs with all the glass, and you can look out there with what we and Porsche call looking out into the kitchen. You want your kitchen to be clean when you see someone cooking in your kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do here. And it matters. Ultimately, look, we have 2 competitors in this market for this brand. And how do you set yourself apart? And among many other things, service and attention to detail. People want to feel good when they shop somewhere and when they get their thing. And so we believe in it strongly. And this building, which was giant and way too big, or perceived to be way too big when we built it, we've probably already outgrown it.
I go back to a conversation we had a long time ago, and I would have, and I don't mean this to sound bad.
It's okay.
I don't want it to come across wrong, is that I'm almost shocked by your level of understanding of this business. I'm not shocked. I know you. Okay. I know you're sharp.
No.
But your amount of years of experience and the things you're talking about here is not normal.
Well,
it's brilliant.
It's people. Everybody says, "Oh, our people." Truly, honest to God, I learned directly from my people, and I still learn today, yesterday, and tomorrow. I learned from not fancy managers, not fancy executives, salesmen, technicians, greeters. Quite frankly, some of the most important people by far are porters, and how our porters handle our people and our customers. And honestly, if you're good to your people, and my dad just always taught me, know everybody's name. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. And if you translate that with everything, with your customers and your community, your leadership, the government officials, whoever, what comes around goes around.
Yeah. So where do you think business leaders should focus their efforts if they're really trying to succeed, short term and long term?
Well,
Where should they put most of their time?
I do think in automotive, my team, and I am scared a little bit, I'll be honest. And I think fear is okay.
Yeah.
Fear is also a great motivator.
Yeah.
Passion is a great thing. People talk about don't be scared. Fear is okay because it keeps you on your toes. I think we all in this automotive industry, I know that wasn't exactly your question. We need to be a little careful. We've had a wonderful upcycle of 11 years, the longest since the Model T Ford. We all need to remind ourselves that this is a cyclical business. So if we can prepare ourselves and get ready, I think that'll help our customers, our people, et cetera, get ready for the downturn. So I am a little concerned.
This out here will go a long way in helping you.
This out here is critical.
Yeah.
That'll keep us alive in the downturn.
We talked a little bit about the Ritz and the Four Seasons, and obviously you get ideas from other industries, but are there specific things that you do daily or monthly, weekly, whatever it might be, where you get a lot of ideas from?
I mean, other industries all the time, and what's happening with great luxury brands, whether it's Lululemon and what they previously used to call their corporate manifesto on the bags of their shopping bags, and little labels inside their clothes on the bottom and little messages, to the United Airlines Global Services example, which I think is the ultimate luxury. Or if you like watches, Patek Philippe and the limited nature and the just kind of keeping certain things behind the curtain is okay. Meaning behind the curtain, meaning that you can't just walk into the store and automatically get that product. And halo products for cars specifically are a great thing. And I think as long as these manufacturers don't blow out and overproduce halo cars, I think halo cars and protecting the brand at all costs and staying true to your brand and your heritage and your mission will help sustain these great brands. We're getting ready to go through giant transition with electric cars and self-driving cars.
Yep, a lot of unknowns.
Young people that have an apathy. I can't believe kids today that are 16 and you meet them like, I'm going to wait to get my driver's license. What? You know what I'm saying? What?
I could not wait.
Yeah, I could not wait. I was checking off the days.
Yeah.
And so those are external items that we have to be aware of. I think the car business is here to stay. It's going to be great. I think things like electric are going to be here, but they may take a little longer. Self-driving will be here, but it may be a little further out. It's not.
There'll be a transition where they have to transition us, people like you and I, to where we feel comfortable letting go of that.
Exactly.
So maybe it's another generation away where that's what they grew up with.
Exactly.
And
I think it's with that you still will have manual transmission 911s.
Yeah.
Meaning you'll have self-driving 4-door people haulers, and you'll hopefully still have a manual transmission 911 Porsche, because that visceral nature and what cars meant and the freedom, will still be around. So as long as you can continue to be open to reinventing yourself and your company and your brand and protect your people along the way, then that's key.
And you've brought up people a few times. So I want you to talk a little bit about, because I know you guys have won some awards in terms of, and I've done some interviews lately that have done heavy on culture and stuff like that. You've obviously attributed a lot of your success to your current culture here. We'll talk a little bit about the awards you guys have won.
Sure. So we love, obviously we are very connected to the Porsche brand. I only bring that up constantly and first because they were the brand that took a chance on me. And so I have a lot of loyalty to them. They took a chance on me when no one else probably should have, could have, or would have. And so we focused a lot on being a premier dealer for Porsche. And so last year we were a premier dealer in Houston, St. Louis, and next year we hope to be a premier dealer we've been a multi-year winner in Houston, a multi-year winner in St. Louis, but next year our goal is to be a premier dealer in Houston, St. Louis, Marin County, and Palm Springs, and hopefully be the first dealer to.
And why is that important to you?
It's important to us because if you walk around our showroom, we don't just have the trophy that we get from Porsche. You'll notice we have banners of our team with our multi-year winning of those awards. And what that means is they look like they're similar to if you went to the Yum Center in Louisville or the Boston Garden in Boston and you see the banners on the ceiling. Yeah. Our banners are those championship teams for those years. And what that does is team members who walk around that see themselves on that banner have pride in what they earned because they earned it. And then your customers actually love it because they're like, oh yeah, there's Scott, my sales ambassador. I'm so proud of him. He's up there. And guess what? I want to be
Scott
associated.
your salesman of the year?
Exactly, of course. And I want to be associated with Scott, who's a winner.
Yeah.
Because your customers want to associate with winners.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, you're better or worse. It's like we've done things, paid attention to retail being detail, and the customers appreciate that, and they want to be associated with those things that create the environment that they're looking for when they spend a lot of money on these cars that they don't really need.
That's right. Do you think it's easier or harder for someone either starting a business today or maybe entering a new marketplace that they don't have a lot of experience in? Do you think it would be easier today or harder, say, compared to then 10 years ago when you got in?
I think that there's a lot of things that are easier. I think companies today are forced to have an environment with HR and benefits and insurance and other things in the working environment. If you're willing to work and you're willing to dig, you can make a lot of money, right? So that's great. But I do think things are harder in the marketplace. There's regulation and complication and training and a lot of things that are way more difficult probably than just before. And a lot of that's probably government driven that's complicated.
I think part of it would be, I think there's a lot more to learn.
A lot more.
Just in marketing alone, there's so many different channels, and they all intermingle. So it's all got to kind of work together, and it's just that alone. But then all the technology, and I know it's not isolated to auto, but if you just even look at just the auto industry, all the different technology that you've got to learn today versus even just 10 years ago.
It's a lot more complicated. I was having a discussion with a brand that'll go unnamed, a president of a company, and literally I was saying, we go to your meetings and you guys have 42 consultants for 14 different departments, for 3 different divisions, for this and that. I'm like, you guys got to streamline. He's like, well, we have to because of this and that. So there is a balance.
Yeah.
And, I'm not quite sure, but those that can find, like, simplify, keep it simple, but yet still address the complications of the world today, which it is a more complicated world, for sure.
So what would you say, final question, what would you say to motivate other business leaders who may be a little stuck, or maybe they feel not as connected as they once were, to refine that passion, right? How would you motivate that person, or what would you suggest?
I'm going to be kind of funny, and probably was like, play less golf. But what I'm saying is, honestly, and I know you well, you got to dig. Yeah. You got to work. You got to be willing to work harder. And by the way, if you're not, it's okay. And if you make a little bit less money, or quite frankly, as a compliment, if you spend a couple more days with your kids and make a little bit less money, maybe they're right and I'm wrong.
Right.
So that's one thing. But I would say if you want to grow your business in the time period and accomplish greatness, honestly, it starts with, as you said, and as I agree, passion. But honestly, you got to be willing to dig and work harder than the next guy. Be here later at night, get here earlier in the morning, be willing to travel more, be willing to say yes to your manufacturers and your customers. And if you're not, that's okay, but then be okay with where your business is if it is what it is, which isn't a bad thing. But if you want to grow, you got to be willing to work harder than that.